Hey guys, welcome back to Jess Got Crafty. My name's Jessica Hart and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator based in Sydney, Australia. Today I'm going to share with you how to make a really fun card. So it's a fun fold card. It's called an infinity fold or a never-ending card. So this is it here. And this is actually my team card swap for this month. So every new catalogue we do a team card swap so that we can share ideas with the new products. So this is the card that I've chosen to design for our swap. And if you open it up like this, you've got this part here, and then you open it up this way. And then it opens this way, and then it keeps going. So that's why it's called an infinity fold card, because it's like a never-ending fold. Okay, so it's super fun. It's actually really easy to do. However, because I'm in Australia, we use A4 sized cardstock, and our sort of measurements that we use are in centimetres, and I found it quite challenging to find instructions on how to make this card in our Australian measurements. So what I'm going to do today is show you a foolproof way how to create this card, made super simple, and you can do it in any measurements, in any size that you want. So basically I've figured out the formula, how it works, so you can go and adjust that formula to any size. So as you can see here, I've made a mini one, which is super cute, okay, and it's really fun to play with. So this is small, it's actually half the size of this one here. And then I've also gone ahead and made a bigger one as well, like a square one, just to test the formula and make sure that it's going to work. So basically, no matter what size card you want, no matter what measurements you use, even if you use inches or centimeters, follow this formula and you can't go wrong. Okay, so the products that we're using today, it's the Happiness Abounds stamp set, as well as the Blossoming Happiness dies. Okay, these are brand new products that are going to be available from the 3rd of May, and this is the new catalogue here. So I can't show you the inside of the catalogue yet, but this card that's showcased on the front here is actually created with the Happiness Abounds stamp set, and there's a whole suite. So there's actually some designer series paper here, as well as some gems. So this is what we are working with today. Now we'll get straight into it. So I'll just pop these aside. Okay, so you're going to need your trimmer and scoreboard. The Stampin' Up trimmer actually has a scoring blade and a cutting blade. Okay, so this is what we're going to use. And to start off with, you're going to need 2 pieces of cardstock exactly the same size. So decide what size you want your final card to be, and you want 2 pieces of cardstock that same size. Okay, so for me, I'm using our Australian A4 sized card. So you can get 2 of these Infinity Fun Fold cards out of 1 piece of A4 cardstock, okay? So these are the 2 pieces that I'm using. Now these measure 10.4 centimetres this way by 14.8 centimetres this way. Now, normally half a sheet of A4 sort of lengthways is 10.5 centimetres. Now I've brought that down to 10.4 so that it's an even number, so that when we divide it and work our way down, we actually end up with whole millimetres and not half millimetres or quarter millimetres. Okay, so 10.4 by 14.8, and I've got 2 of those the same. Okay, so we're going to work on the first one here. So on the short edge, okay, so you want to hold your cardstock with the short edge facing up, and you want to score this at 2.6 centimetres, okay, so that's 2.6. Now a tip that I've used is when you're scoring this, you want to just bring it just up to the score line, okay? You don't want to actually go right on the 2.6 mark. Just bring it just before, so just before the line, because it gives you a little bit of like space so that your card will fold neatly, okay? If you go a little bit over the mark, it might not fold exactly right, okay? So score at 2.6 centimeters, okay? Turn it around and score it again at 2.6 centimeters and just before the mark, okay? Alrighty. So on the short edge, we've scored at 2.6, we've turned it around and we've scored it again at 2.6, okay? And just because this is black, you can't really see, I've got some guides here that I've made in Whisper White, basic white, just so that you can see. So we've scored it at 2.6 there, we've flipped it around, we've scored it at 2.6 there. Now what we're going to do is turn it to the long edge and we're going to cut it in half, okay? So half for us is 7.4 centimeters. So 7.4 centimeters. And this one you can be exact because they need to be exactly the same size. So 7.4 and cut that, okay? So there we have two pieces like so, all right? The next one here, we're going to start on the long edge, okay? So on the long edge, we're going to score this at 3.7 centimeters. And again, just before the mark, you don't want to come right onto the 3.7. So if you're using a scoreboard, you can just put a little bit of a shim at the end, a couple of pieces of cardstock at the end, just to shim it so that you're not exactly scoring it on that mark. Okay, flip it around and 3.7 centimeters again. Okay, so on the long edge, we've scored it at 3.7, flipped it around and scored it at 3.7 again. So that's this guide here on the long edge, 3.7, flip it around and 3.7 again. Okay, now we're going to turn it to the short edge and we're going to cut it in half. Okay, so half for us here is 5.2 centimeters. So 5.1.2 is just there. And cut. Okay, so this gives us 4 pieces like so. Okay, now what's the formula and how can you do this in any measurements and for any card size? Okay, what you want to do is you want to get your piece of cardstock. So ours was, I'll write it on the back here so that you can see. So our piece of cardstock was 10.4 centimeters, okay, by 14.8 centimeters, okay. So if you grab your calculator, 10.4 divide by 2 equals, divide by 2 again equals 2.6, okay. So 2.6 is going to be the score mark. Then with the 14.8, divide by 2 equals, divide by 2 again equals 3.7. Okay. If you're doing it in inches, for example, let's say you've got a 6" by 6" cardstock. You want your final card to be 6 by 6. You would go 6 divided by 2 equals, divide by 2 equals. Your score mark is going to be at 1.5 inches. Okay, now because both of your pieces of cardstock are going to be the same, no matter which way you turn it, you're going to still score it at, both of your pieces are going to be the same. You're not going to have a difference here because this is rectangular. When you turn it, it's going to be different. Okay, so essentially what you're aiming to do, so if we burnish, fold our score marks here, essentially what you're aiming for is to meet in the middle. okay? But you just want a little slight gap so that your fold, your mechanism will fold without sort of catching upon the other side, okay? So that's what you're aiming for, and this one as well. So if we fold this and fold this, our purpose is to actually meet in the middle. Okay, I hope that makes sense, and I hope I've explained that clearly. If you do have any questions, just pop them in the comments below, and I'm more than happy to answer those for you. But yeah, no matter what size cardstock you have, no matter what measurements you use, you're essentially meeting in the middle, okay? So if you divide your cardstock by 2, okay, then divide it by 2 again, you're going to get this mark here and this mark here, okay? So once you've got your score lines, turn it the other direction, cut it in half, okay? So here we've got our score lines, and then, so our score lines here, then turn it the other direction and cut it in half, okay? So yeah, hopefully that's clear. And like I said, that's the formula that I used, and I was able to duplicate this in various sizes, and it did work, okay? All right, so let's keep going now. So the next step is to actually construct the card, all right? So we've got here score lines down this way, and then on this side we've got score line going this way, okay? So what I might do is I'll cut these ones so that you can see more clearly what it is that I'm talking about. Okay, so this is 5.2, cut that there. And then this is 7.4, cut that. All right. So you want to arrange your pieces like this. Okay, so we've got our 2 score lines going down this way with our 2 pieces of cardstock this way. So landscape, but the score lines are going down. And then these 2 here are up and down, and the score line's going across. Okay, so that's what I've got here with my black. It's just that it's a little bit hard for you to see the lines, being that it's black cardstock. Okay, so if you hold this like so, you want to put your adhesive up here in the top, but you don't want to go below this where this score line is. Okay, so that's why if you place your pieces like so on your desk, it's easy for you to gauge what's going on, all right? So I find liquid glue is best for this because it needs to be exact. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna put glue here in the corner, and then you're gonna take this piece and you're going to put it directly on top. And you need to make sure that those corners line up exactly, and it needs to be perfect, okay? If it's crooked or a little bit off, the card won't fold. So I have some cards here that I was experimenting with, all right? And if you're not exactly right, it won't work, okay? So you'll get to this point here and it's not going to open, all right? So you need to be pretty spot on with this. So if you use a tape runner, you know, or tear and tape or Stampin' Seal Plus, you need to make sure that when you put this on here, you're putting it on in the exact right spot, okay? The advantage of using the liquid glue is that it doesn't dry straight away, right? So normally when you put it on, you've got time to slide it around and you can make sure it's exact, okay? So, and that's going to be the case for all 4 corners, all right? So we're going to put the liquid glue on all 4 corners, but we're not going to go past the score line on all of these 4 corners, okay? So I'll go ahead and do that now on my black one here. Now the glue doesn't have to go all the way to the edge, okay? So you don't have to be too fussy with it, okay? but obviously you need enough so that it will hold, but you don't want too much that it's going to sort of go everywhere, because you really don't need it. You don't want it to go past that mark, or otherwise your card will not work, okay? It'll be stuck in the wrong positions. Okay, so there's our first bit. Okay, just make sure that that's exact. Okay, so that looks good. All right, and then our second bit of glue needs to go down here. Like so. And just line this up exactly on the corner. Okay. And you can pick it up and have a closer inspection. Make sure that you are happy with where it's placed. Okay, so that looks good to me. Okay, make sure that it's adhered. You know, make sure that the glue sets, because if sometimes when you put it down and the glue's not set, it'll move. Okay, so just give that a few moments, a nice press, make sure that that's well stuck, and then we can come on the other side here. Now what I tend to do, so you notice I did the first corner and I adhered it, and then I came and did the second corner. What I'm going to do now on this side, I'm actually going to do both at the same time. Okay. So put your glue in the corner here like so, and down here. Okay, again, making sure that I don't breach that score line on either side. And what we can do now, we can take this whole piece, we can line it up here and just rest that on top. Okay, and again, pick it up and have a closer inspection, making sure that those corners are exactly perfect. Okay, so that looks pretty good to me. Okay, so just give that a few moments, let the glue set before we actually test it. Make sure it folds. All right, so that is the basis of our card. Okay, so now it's the big test. All right, so at this point here, you can decide if you want your card to open, let me grab my sample, so you can open it here like a book. Okay, so that's like a typical gatefold card, or you can have it this way upside down where it opens up and down. Okay, now I've purposely chosen I used retired Christmas paper on this one, but it's not really directional, so it doesn't matter which way you go. Okay, the patterns are not very directional on this, but if your patterns are directional, you're going to need to be careful. You know, like if you've got trees here, the trees are up sideways. Okay, so you really want to decide at the beginning what sort of papers you're going to use, because you're going to need to think about where they're placed. All right, but now this has had a few minutes to make sure the glue's stuck. I've decided to open mine like a book. So what you want to do is you want to just fold and burnish those lines. Okay, and this one here, fold and burnish those lines. So that's our first fold. Okay, it's like a book. All right, next we're going to fold, so you can see the score line is in the back there, so we're going to fold that score line backwards and burnish. Fold this one backwards and burnish. Okay, so that's our second fold. So the first one is like a book, and then the second one is up and down. Okay, now this next one just happens naturally, and then this one just happens naturally. So you can see here that that's perfect. It hasn't, now there is a little bit of a gap there, but I'm fine with that. I prefer to have a slight gap than to make it too tight and then it not to fold properly. Okay, so by not scoring all the way up to that mark, that's what's allowed us to make sure that the card actually folds correctly. Okay, so that is our infinity fold or never-ending card. It's super fun. My 14-year-old son has had heaps of fun playing with these, so I was giving him all of my testing ones to do, and it's like a little fidget game for the kids to play with. They just sit there, and I said to him, you're going to wear it out. So yeah, so there we go. If you follow this formula, you should be able to copy this in no matter what size you want. All right, you could do 6 by 6. This is not 6 by 6. This one's actually 14.6 centimeters by 14.6 centimeters, and that's because our A4 cardstock, it doesn't, yeah, you can't get that size. You can't get two 6 by 6 cards out of our A4 cardstock. So yeah, 14.6 by 14.6. If you were using 12 by 12 cardstock and cutting it down though, you could certainly do 6 by 6 and you could get 2 cards out of one sheet, okay? And if you were using 12 by 12 cardstock, you could make this one 4 by 6. You'd be able to get 3 of these cards out of one sheet, okay? So all you need to do to figure out your score lines is divide the length by half and by half again to get your score lines, okay? Then flip it the other direction, cut it in half. Simple as that. All right, so to decorate, what you want to do now that you've got the bones of your card, you basically want to grab a ruler and just measure each section, okay? So for me, this part here is, I'm going to go with a width of 5 centimeters, or you could do 4.9, depending on how much of a margin you want to give yourself, okay? And then you want here, I'm going to do 7. So this little section here, just this bit here, is 7 by 4.9, okay? So 7 down, 4.9 across. That means this is going to be 4.9, but the top section is going to be, I'm going to go 3.4, okay? So measure the box, take off how much of a margin you would like to have, okay? And then flip it inside, the same thing. So this would be the same size, 7 by 4.9. These ones, however, are actually smaller again. So it's still 3.4 here, but this one is going to be a bit less. So for me, I'm going to do that one 2.3. Okay, so like I said, if you're copying this exact one, you can copy my measurements. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this on my blog and I'm going to put all of the measurements there. However, you know, if you're doing this in whatever size you would like to use, you're just going to have to measure each section, give yourself a margin and cut your panels accordingly. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I've got a bunch of panels already prepared. Okay, so I've got the all the different sections here for my card, and I've also actually stamped and colored in a few elements from the stamp set, and I've die cut them as well for my decorations, okay, as well as the sentiment and a couple of panels to write on inside the card. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and actually adhere all of this. This is the boring part, so I'm just going to speed this up. I'll probably put a little bit of background music on this, just so that you don't have to sit there and watch. So really what I wanted to show you is how to actually make the card, how to make the fold work, and how to figure out the formula so that you can recreate this in any size using any measurements. Okay, so right, I'm just going to go ahead now and decorate this, and I'll be back soon. So I'm just going to interject here. So the other thing I was saying with the paper is making sure that it's directional. If you can, if it bothers you, you might want to just think about like whether the pattern's continuing or not, okay? So these two pieces actually go side by side when I cut the cardstock. So I'm going to make sure that I place those in the right spot. You can mix and match. No one's really going to pay much attention, to be honest. Like, the pattern's very busy, so you really can't tell. But if it bothers you, if you do want to have that continuous pattern, just think about when you're cutting them. So what I've done here when I've cut them is I've purposely placed them together so that I don't lose them, so that I don't mix it up which goes with which, okay? So just think about that as well, okay? Okay, so now we're at the last section here, all right? So this is the first section, and if you've decided that this is going to be the front of your card, when you adhere your decorations, it's going to be obvious to the recipient of the card that this is the front, right? So this is fine. Your pattern can be going this way up and down. When you're going to the inside of the card, it doesn't matter because this is the correct way up. So these patterns are not directional anyway, but if you did, it's going to be facing up and down this way. Okay, and the same with this one here, it's going to be facing up and down, but when you get to this last section, it's still facing this way, right? But when you flip it around, this is actually the back of the card. So your pattern here, let's say you've got a directional pattern and it's up and down this way, but when you flip it, and it's actually going to be upside down on the back, okay? And how I was talking about the pattern being continuous, if you make it continuous here, when you flip it up this way, it's no longer going to be continuous, okay? So what I just want to mention is on the back, try and choose something that's not going to matter. Okay, try and choose a pattern that's not directional and a pattern that's, it's not going to matter if it's not continuous. So for example, something like this would have been perfect for the back of the card because it's not going to make a difference. Which way you hold it, it's going to be the same no matter what. Okay, so just think about that as well because yeah, the pattern that I have chosen, I actually did not think that one through very clearly. And as I made my extra ones, this is as I went through, I decided to use patterns that were not very directional. Okay, so just be mindful when you're creating the card that this back panel, when you open it and you go through the motions of the card, this is the way it's going to sit. But as you flip it back, it's going to be backwards on the back of the card. Okay, so that's just one final comment I wanted to make on that. Okay, so here it is here. Okay, so we have all of our panels decorated there now. So we've got, this is our front here, beautiful. The designer series paper is absolutely gorgeous. It goes with this suite as well. And, if you have a packet of paper where you absolutely love all of them, you want to showcase all of the patterns, this card design is really perfect. So we've got this panel here, then we've got our lovely greens, and this one is just gorgeous. I love this. And then finally our last panel, and then back to the front. Now, you might want to turn this into a little bit of a mini album. If you do, you can, you know, adhere some photos in here. And in here as well. So this is the point where you can start decorating, and you can decide how you actually want to present the card, okay? So for me, I've got a sentiment, a flower, and some foliage for the front, okay? So I'll go ahead and adhere these ones. So that's the front of our card decorated. So I'm just keeping it simple because the card itself is, you know, a very big wow card, and I don't want to overwhelm it. I've got a lot of colors going on here, so I kept the coloring of the elements quite basic, okay? So this panel here is where we're going to write. So I've actually cut a couple of pieces, and I've used this decorative border die that comes with the suite, just to give it a little bit of interest. I really like how it sort of looks like a torn out notebook. So, and you know, sometimes you don't, I don't know about you, some people are big writers in cards and love to write big long messages, but for me, I'm not really a big talker. I think short and sweet for me. So this is enough space for me to write my message, but you can put panels on every single section. If you want to, you can put as many panels for writing as you wish. And yeah, so it's up to you. If you do like a lot of writing as well, you might wish to choose, you know, the bigger style card and put the whole panels for writing, and then this whole panel for writing as well. So yeah, you can absolutely do whatever you wish when it comes to sorting out which panels you're going to write on, which panels you're going to decorate. And I just have another little sentiment here that I'm going to stick on the inside. I'm just going to pop it down the bottom here like so. And it just says, "You are wonderful in every way." Okay, so we've got friend, you are wonderful in every way. And you could say, "Hi, thinking of you, I miss you so much." Or you could say, "Happy birthday, hope you have a wonderful day." Really, you could say whatever you like, okay? This section here, I just love this paper and I really don't want to hide too much of it. So I'm simply going to put a little flower. So this is just going to go inside there. Make sure you put glue on the little stick of the flower because you don't want it to sort of lift up and catch on anything. Okay. And if I pop this down in the corner here, it's actually going to be hidden. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So when you fold this up, you can't actually see that it's there. And then when you open it, it's a little surprise there in the corner. Okay. And I actually just forgot, I was planning to put a leaf on this section here. So I'll grab that. And just pop it down in the corner here, like so. Now be careful with the glue. I tend to get glue all over my fingers, and you don't want to actually end up sticking sections of the card together that shouldn't be stuck together. Okay, where am I? Mixing this up. Okay, so back to the front. So we've got this one. And then we've got our little flower there, and now this is our final panel. So what I've decided to do here is I've actually, let me just get my sample card and double check. Yeah, okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to pop a little leaf, one last leaf, and I'm going to put this in the corner. oops, so just in the corner here, okay? So just very basic, because this is the panel that's going to be upside down on the back of the card. Okay, so if it's like this, then we're back to the start. When you turn it around, then the leaf's actually at the top. Okay, so that's fine. I'm happy with that. So there we go, and it's there, but then when you flip it up, it's actually at the top there. Okay, so finally the last step is to add some little embellishments. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm using these glossy dot assortments. So these ones actually come with the suite. The colors match beautifully, and they're pretty flat. Okay, so for this type of card, you don't want anything bulky because it's going to interfere with the fold. Okay, and it's also going to like mark. So if you've got an embellishment here and then it's constantly folded like that, you're going to end up with marks inside the card. So these are nice and flat. Okay, so what I've decided to do is I've got a purple one just here, as well as I think this is Pool Party or Coastal Cabana, but there we go. So it could be either. So those two just there. And then I've got nothing on this one here because this is where we're going to write the message anyway. I've got a yellow one just down in the corner here with the flower. And finally, I'm going to use a pink one just here, like so. All right. And then when you flip that upside down, you've got the little dot down the bottom and the little leaf at the top. And there we have our gorgeous card. So this is our infinity fold or never-ending card. As I mentioned, if you follow the formula that I went through at the beginning, you should be able to recreate this card in any size using any measurements, okay? So you just need to work out at what point do you need to score so that your card will fold and meet in the middle, okay? So you want the length of your cardstock, divide it by 2, divide it by 2 again, and that's your score mark. Turn it the other direction and cut it in half. Okay, 2 pieces of cardstock exactly the same size, and then follow the way that I adhered in the corners, and you should be able to create this card in any size. And you can always come back to this recording and press pause and you know, follow along with me. I hope I've explained it clearly for you guys, and you can head over to jessgotcrafty.com if you want to catch all the measurements for this specific card that I have made. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you live in Australia and you need a Stampin' Up demonstrator, please reach out to me. I'm happy to get a catalogue your way and show you how to order and all of that sort of thing. If you have any questions, also please reach out to me. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you soon.